Do you want to know what to do when stepchildren are ruining the marriage? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting, good communication, and how to build strong family bonds all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we are talking about blended families. In this video, we're going to talk about the dynamics that some people are dealing with stepchildren and some of these hurdles that we need to overcome, and then also some things that you can do to strengthen relationships, strengthen the marriage, and get the family on track to succeeding the way that you hope that they will. All right, the first thing that I can tell you is you're absolutely not alone when it comes to feeling like the stepchildren are making it really hard to stay married. Recently, I met with a couple and they have a blended family. Their children are a little bit older and are starting to get into the adulthood years. They are teens and up toward young adults, and they're all still at home. They haven't moved out yet, and they are not contributing like they should. They are controlling some of the home environment, and one of the parents is a little bit more passive. I usually use the term modern progressive, and permissive maybe could be a term that you could think of. In their parenting, they're really worried about emotions, have a tendency to coddle the children a little bit more. And that parent is the mother, and the mother does seem to stay in the good graces of the children a little bit more. They like her because she enables them. She's really worried about the relationships, and she doesn't want the relationships to be damaged or ruined, and so she is focused really heavily on making sure that her children feel loved, which is a really good thing, but she doesn't do a lot of correcting. In fact, she's kind of afraid to correct, so she lets the children steer a lot of their interactions. So her husband is a little different. He is much more structured. He also, I would say, is a little bit more, maybe bully fear-based used to be, and he's trying to be a little bit more traditional strict. These terms that I'm using, you can learn more about them when you look up videos on this channel related to parenting styles. I talk about the different styles of parenting and how they interplay with each other. So anyway, the dad really wants the children to not mistreat their mom. He wants them to be respectful of him and his things and his property, because, you know, here they are, blended family, right, coming together. He wants them to learn skills. He doesn't want them to end up living with him forever. He wants to launch them out of the house, especially as they come of age. And he wants them to have enough adult skills so that they feel confident going out into the world. Now, both parents work and they're very busy, and the children end up having a lot of needs. So even though they're older children, they oftentimes are, oh, I forgot this at school, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do this. And so the parents are constantly running them here and there, plus managing their work day, and really just doing a lot of caretaking for these older children and young adults that you would think you normally wouldn't have to when they're that age. And so the stepdad of the children is really frustrated. So we end up having this conversation, and the couple tells me, listen, this is ruining our marriage. If this cannot get sorted out, I'm not sure we can stay married. So they came to one of the 3-day parenting mastery trainings that I do. And it's 3 full days about self-government. It's about the marriage relationship, but also about the communication with the children. And they just weren't sure if they'd be able to be on the same page with each other. In fact, they were separated at the time that they came. They were really close to ending the marriage and the relationship. But then they learned some skills that they could use together. And it changed everything for them. They had hope. They went forward and they started teaching the children skills, and they didn't necessarily like it. And I think that was hard on mom a little bit, because she really wants them to like everything. That is a very modern progressive thing to do. And she's worried about their emotional things. But in the end, they started following through, and they started seeing really good results with the children. and seeing that more respect was happening and the family was able to discuss in calm ways. There didn't need to be any bullying or fear-based stuff. And ultimately, the parents established themselves as parent figures again because they'd really lost a lot of their role. And so they were able to get the roles back in the right place where they should be and be able to correct and instruct the children as needed, since some of them were still minors. But as long as they're living in the house, they technically are still dependent, right, upon the parents. And so all the more reason that they would need to follow some house guidelines and learn the skills and how to communicate with the rest of the group and the family. So anyway, the biggest thing was they ended up getting on the same page with their parenting. Now, I think someone could make a video and say, all right, so what you need to do is you just need to tell those kids who's boss, and and don't let them push you around and stuff like that. But in reality, getting heavy-handed like that or giving children ultimatums, especially when the children are already power struggling, just shows them that what they're doing is working. And if they're really trying to manipulate to end your marriage and to create grief for the family, lots of times that would be subconscious. But let's say it is a conscious thing. The last thing that you would want to do is to show them that their power struggle is actually working and start power struggling back at them. Now, if you've already subscribed to this channel, you know that I talk a lot about the skills and principles of self-government. So let's talk about what self-government is. When a person has self-government, then that means they understand the cause and effect of any given situation, and they possess a knowledge of their own behaviors so that they can control them. So what that means is that they are evaluating themselves and who they think they ought to be, and they're trying to put those things into alignment, and they're course correcting. They don't have any problem saying, I did this wrong, I need a new skill, I need some help, I need to course correct. Anyway, all of that stuff is what it means for self-government. Now, usually when a person is self-governed, they make a plan ahead of time. So they pre-plan and they say, these are the skills I need, or this is the pattern or the model that I'm going to follow, and then that gives them something to hold on to so that they know when to course correct. So it usually takes a little bit of pre-planning. Well, the same thing is going to go for your marriage relationship and for your family, and any dynamics that are going to change in the family. So one of the things that you can do to help save your marriage and also to not power struggle with the children is to get on the same page in your parenting. One of the ways that they tear your marriage apart is by pitting your style of parenting against your spouse's style of parenting. That's the main thing that happens when it seems like the children are tearing you apart. They're trying to get you to battle each other on how you manage the children. You've got to be unified on how you manage the children, which means both of you might have to learn new tricks. And there's ways to do that. Come to one of the 3-day parenting mastery trainings. So if you go to my website, teachingselfgovernment.com, you will see right on the front page when the next 3-day parenting mastery trainings are going to be happening. You have to get yourself there. Sometimes they're live, sometimes like they're in-person live at different locations around the world. Sometimes they are online live. Either way, get yourself to those things if you can. You also could take the TSG parenting course. It's not going to have as much personalized attention and maybe not quite as much information about the marriage, which could be useful to you. So if you could get yourself to the 3-day training, then you'll have the greatest chance of unifying and making sure you really get everything under your belt. The other thing about the online course is you can go at your own pace and you can come back to it again and again, but people don't usually do it as fast. When you do the 3-day training, you get everything start to finish in 3 days, and we train you on all of it, and then we're there for support afterward. And so that's super helpful as well. I mean, you can start learning with some of the books, the Teaching Self-Government books, and you can start the course if there's going to be time before the next parenting mastery training is happening, but I would highly recommend that. Don't throw in the towel, don't give up hope until you've made a really consistent effort at trying to get the parenting language on the same page. If you can get the skill base down together, then your children can't pit you against each other as much. You also have to decide that emotions are part of being a human, but they don't mean that you're not doing it right. Any person can show any emotion at any time, and they can choose those things. They can use them in manipulative ways. They can also use emotions in real ways where they really are trying to express that they have a concern that needs to be met. But keep in mind that oftentimes the emotional things that are coming out of your children are things that are trying to throw you off your game if they're not happy in the blended family. Maybe they feel like in the blended family they've lost a little bit of control because now there's two parents and not just one that they have to overpower. What you might be witnessing is that when you were just a single parent, they were easily controlling you and you were tolerating it. Your tolerances might have been high because your bandwidth was spread really thin. But now that you have a spouse again in your life and you have two people to hold them accountable, and you're examining yourself a little bit more closely because you have a spouse that's also watching what you do, that you now are being a little bit more consistent. Maybe you're doing more teaching, you're correcting more things, and the child is like, what is this? My life has been ruined. You know, I used to be able to get whatever I want and now I can't. Now with the marriage, it is really a bad idea to raise children with this idea that only one parent can do the correcting. When you marry someone, then that means that suddenly you're a full family with that person that you've married. And so that person needs to be able to correct the children that are biologically yours, and vice versa as well, because they need to see that the full family dynamic can work well. If it's always, that's my child, well, you'll have to be corrected by so-and-so, you'll have to be corrected by so-and-so. They don't ever get to experience the full family dynamic, which is what you're going to want them to go for in life, right? You don't want them to end up with a divorce situation or a blended family that is struggling. You want them to have a whole family relationship and dynamic so that things work out the very best way possible. So you'll want to pre-teach to the children that you are going to allow each other to correct and that you're all going to use the same skills and principles of self-government. So what are the skills and principles of self-government? Well, there are the 4 basic skills of self-government. There's the 5 teaching styles of self-government. There's 3 meetings. There's the tone elements, especially with a heavy focus on calmness. There's the problem-solving development. All of those things come together to become the teaching self-government program. Utilizing all of those things together, your family should start thinking in a different pattern. Actually, the whole family dynamic and the culture will change because suddenly it will be principle-based instead of just emotions and manipulation-based. If you feel like there might be no hope for your family, probably you are living in a bunch of manipulation right now, and you've got to nip that. You've got to get the roles in the right place. The mother-father role, super important. Now, I have a bunch of books. There's the Roles book, the Parenting House United book, the 4 Basic Skills books for children, and there's the journals for the meetings and the problem-solving exercises and all of those things. You can find out about all of those things at teachingselfgovernment.com. So go there, go to the shop tab, check out where the next parenting mastery trainings are happening, get yourself signed up, or at least get started on something. In fact, one book that you may want to read first thing is a book called Popular Parenting Methods that I wrote. It's on that website, teachingselfgovernment.com. So go there. I'll see you then.